Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I've had a couple of requests regarding doing window tint without a machine. So what I'm going to show you today is my rendition from tint roll to installation. This is Lumar window film, and this happens, different manufacturers will actually roll off the roll differently. So without further ado, pay attention to your rolls. So I'm going to do a wet shrink because it seems like it's very common with new tinters that they do wet shrinking. So the window has already been cleaned. There's nothing on it. When I say cleaned, I mean I've just basically wet the window down and I squeegeed it off. So the reason why I'm going to show you this way, a wet shrink, is because the water is going to help hold the film if you're doing an old style basic off the roll to the glass. So I have 15% window film here, and this is a 30-inch roll. In case you're wondering, this is a 2018 Camry. So as I said, the window has been wet, which will also help me hold the window film. So once I get to this point, I know that I have complete coverage of the window. Take my blade, careful not to cut into your vehicle. Now the window film has been basically rough cut per se. That's starting off. So what you want to do is check both sides before you make any cuts. And as you can see very quickly, the film does completely cover the window. So then you know you're ready to cut some of the excess. This is not the final trim. So what you normally want to do is just get a quick visual of where your line is underneath the window tint. And again, this is just a first initial cut. And if you noticed, I went ahead and snapped my blade initially. So pull your film, rip off your remainder. Again, take a look, get a visual. Pull away. When you're pulling off access, for you new guys, and you're pulling it up, always pull away so you're ripping away from the tint so you don't rip into the tint, guys. Sorry about that, guys. My cameraman had a little flub there. Anyway, so we're gonna come over here. We're gonna do a basic trim again. Come on, dude. You're the tech guy over there too. Mess up my camera. It's all good. Alrighty. Alright, as you can see, we have a basic cutout. So obviously there's going to be access all the way around. So I'm going to do a standard, what a lot of people call like an H pattern on the window. Again, I don't recommend on these cars pulling very tight. Just get the overall general slack out of the window like that. As you can see, I'm not pulling on it very hard at all. And I'll be honest with you guys, I have not done any wet shrinking really in a long time. So there's your basic cutout of a window. So now I get my, I like to do wet shrinking. You're good right there, so you're not in the way. I do my basic wet shrinking with a white card. When a lot of guys start off tinting, I think the wet shrink method is possibly a little bit easier because the water kind of acts as a buffer where you're less likely to heat up your window tint and possibly crease it because of that water underneath there. And there's nothing wrong with wet shrinking. I choose to do dry. I just think it's a lot faster. Same basic principle. Work your fingers from the bottom Get it swiped up. All right, we got one half of the window done. When you have these big fingers like this, try to break them up. And when I say break them up, I mean split them. They tend to shrink a little easier. It's a lot easier to wrestle a little finger than a big finger. So when you have big fingers like this, just go ahead and split them up. Shrink them down. Swipe down. When you see that the tint is to a decent shrunk state, basically, keep all your tension up and down on the film, because everybody knows the tint don't shrink sideways. So make sure you keep all that tension and all those fingers up and down. As you can see, when I was carding it, it was trying to push over a finger that way. Keep that tension going up and down so it'll still shrink. Even though it tried to move on me and kick a little bit of that tension over to the side, just make sure you keep the film, the fingers running up and down to shrink them down. As you can see, I've got these fingers up here. They're divided up. Are those showing up pretty good on the camera? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've got these fingers all divided up. And you can see, guys, obviously I'm not applying a whole mess of heat because I'm running it down with my hand, and you can see it. It's not burning me. None of that stuff. All right, that window is shrank. So now comes, I guess, what would be considered the more trickier part is, again, pick up your window film, get an idea. Now this car right here has black interior with the 15% on the rear. And if you've been doing tinting, or if you're learning how to tint, you know a car that has darker interior, it makes it even more difficult to see through the window tint. So again, pick up the tint, get a visual of where you're at, and just use your common sense. Now this particular car here, like I said, it's a 2018 Camry. It does give you a lot of blackout inside, so you have a lot of extra border to work with. When I say that, I mean there's access area inside that the tint will overlay on. So I'm not saying it has to be absolutely perfect. Obviously leave yourself some space. Oops. For your film to sit behind the blackout. That's going to bring us to the tail light. Now, my ideas on the tail light are this. both ways are 100% acceptable on tinting over a taillight or cutting a taillight out. This is my idea in that when you cut your window film for a taillight, what it does is it makes the film less rigid. So when you're going to install that window film, it makes the tint a little bit more floppy, I guess you could say, and basically harder to handle. So if the vehicle if it's easy to install the window film without a brake light, I say go for it. I say for somebody that's potentially learning, it could make it easier on you to tint a back glass without the brake light cut out. And like I said, it'll add to the rigidity of the film, because once you remove that liner, the film on the glass is gonna kind of want to flop around. As you can see, guys, I'm a little height deprived, so I have access up there, which I'm not going to attempt to reach. But when I put it up on that glass, I can easily make a straight line across it. I've done this a million times, so that little access up there does not bother me at all. I'm going to go ahead and remove it, and I'll just cut right off that access that you see right there. Mm-hmm. Very easy to fix on the glass over here. Any little small areas that you run across around the window, like this, what I'll call a jagged edge, easily remedied right here on your board. Just fade it out basically, and like I said, it's not perfectly cut. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. As long as it's covering your whole window, you're good to go. All right, so we've got this window tint ready to be installed in this vehicle. So we start off, and again, I have Dawn in a tint tank. I'll jump in here. Let me get these seats moved out of the way because I haven't done that yet. Can you do me a favor and poke in on that side, sir? Mm-hmm. This particular car does not have removable headrests, which makes it way more difficult to maneuver this window film over it. So you just basically have to work around it and contort yourself with this big massive piece of film over the deals. What I use to clean back windows is this little white scrubby. So, you can get these at 3M scrubby. There's many different brands that make it, but just a general little white scrubby. Clean your back glass. Start off squeegeeing from the top, work your way down. Main thing is control your water, because if you're controlling your water, you're actually controlling your dirt that was potentially on your glass. Instead of getting up there and doing some all crazy little squeegeeing back and forth, control your water with your squeegee, because that's essentially where your dirt is going. And so on these harder angled back glasses, I'll tend to come in here with a Titan, and I'll do a final squeegee across the bottom, get all the potential dirt off the bottom. Now that means the whole glass has now been scrubbed, squeegeed. Now it's time to wet it up and install the window film. All right, the window has been thoroughly wet down. I wet from the top down. So now I come over here to the glass and I begin to peel off my window. Peel your tint back. As you can see, I'm removing and peeling, and the water will kind of help you too keep the film up on the glass, believe it or not. So on all back glasses that I do, I always have a bottle of higher concentration of soap to water. I don't have an exact measurement. I just put, you know, higher content of Dawn in there. I wet the window down. This is what I was talking about. Having a brake light cut out of here creates basically two separate pieces here that tend to want to be a little bit more floppy. Whereas if you have one solid piece, it makes the tint rigid so that when you're holding it, it keeps it all taut and it doesn't want to flop back and forth. So there's an upside and a downside essentially to having a back glass from the installer perspective with a brake light cut out. So I got my window film, got it ready for install, fold it together, jump in the car. So we're gonna work our way over these headrests, straight in as far as it'll go, push it down, ease it in. There's no sense to do any type of forcing. It's more of a finesse. So just finesse the window in there. When you see like you're getting the tint bunched up a little bit, just finesse it in, guys. So we've got the tint in here now, blah, blah, blah. All right. All right, we are covered all the way around. And again, this is the first time I've hand cut a back glass and I can't tell you how long, so kind of excited with that. So when it comes to squeegeeing, I'll always say just start in the center. Start in the center, work your way out. Even strokes, guys, all the way around. All right, pop on out there. Oh, got a lot of water in the middle. Guess I missed that. I forgot to squeegee behind the brake. How's that look, buddy? Like I've done it before? All right, I got a little water right there. To get behind these brake lights, I'm using this Bulldozer Auto, by the way. There's water right there still. Maybe it's hitting me.
It's gone now.
All right, guys, those are the essentials of tinting a back glass right directly off a roll without a machine. Thank you for the watches.